Robert. Thank you for joining all of us this morning. Thank you for flying all the way down here. You told me it was between coming to the Trump inauguration or here, but you chose to be with us, so we're very honored. But happy Inauguration Day. Let's talk about the future of money. Robert, so you're going to educate us about financial education today. The S&P says 6,000, gold's at 2,700, Bitcoin's over 100K. What is the future of money? Is it in assets or something else?
Well, I thank Jay Martin for this, and it's an honor to be on stage with David Lin because he feels like my little brother.
Thank you.
And I've been watching him grow up through Kitco in here and
appreciate it.
Evolving. So, and I love the VRIC. I've been coming to Canada for almost 30 years to do deals. And so, but when Jay asked me to come and speak, I said, what do I speak about? Because you guys have some guys who are really, really smart here. And I'm okay miner, but not a great miner. So I have gold mines and silver mines and lithium mines, but I'm not a great miner. So I thought I'd talk about financial education, because Jay had a speaker on one of his YouTube sites. He did a great job of why financial education is important. But more importantly, why aren't we teaching it? So I show you this. I go around the world with these two things here. This is a 1964 half dollar with Kennedy on it, 1964. And this is a $10 bill. And I use it everywhere. I was at Safeway in my town of Phoenix, and I showed this to the two women working on the counter serving salads. I said, which one would you rather have? Of course, you take the $10 bill. And ladies and gentlemen, that's the problem, is that the American public doesn't know fake money from real money. And I am a hardcore mining guy. I'm a hard asset guy. I own Bitcoin also, because this is the worst thing it is. So the reason 64 is important was the year after that, 65. I was 17 in 1964. By 65, it turned into copper. And it was violating Gresham's law. And what Gresham's law states, when fake money comes into the system, fake money comes in, real money goes into hiding. And so what's happening today, the reason that's important, why financial education is important, is today the United States is printing $36 trillion. And we're printing $1 trillion every 100 days. There's something wrong. So when they print that much money, what happens is this: the rich get richer. So let me say it again. The after effect of people who print money is the rich get richer because there's asset inflation. So when they print money, gold and silver and real estate and oil go up. But when you print money, chickens, eggs, food, toilet paper go up. So every time we're printing money, this gap between rich and poor is growing wider and wider and wider. So I asked David and I asked Jay Martin if I could talk about education, because that's really why I'm here. And this here is my cash flow board game. And I'm going to be going into the pieces of it. This is how I teach financial education. This game came out in 1996. So I was about 50 years old. And I had retired. And the reason my wife and I had to create this board game was because people kept asking me, how did you retire? I'm 47 years old, and we had not won the lottery, we had no 401k, we had no government, we didn't have rich parents. All we did was play this game in real life. So what we did in 96 is we packaged it, and then the problem was we didn't know how to sell it. So because I didn't know how to sell it, I wrote this book here, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and the book took off. I'm happy to announce it's still #1 in the world. Still #1.
What inspired you to write that book initially?
What's that?
What inspired you to write that book initially?
Well, because I couldn't sell the stupid board game. I invented the nylon and Velcro surfer wallet. So I was a products guy. And then I went to rock and roll. I developed products for, there's an old band called Police, Van Halen, Boy George, Duran Duran. So I was in products. But on the side, I was buying real estate. And so that's when my wife and I retired, and people kept saying, how the heck should you retire? You don't have jobs, you're not in a sound business, you didn't win the lottery, you're not a quarterback. So that's when we invented this game, which caused the problem, how do I sell this game? And suddenly I became famous for writing a book. And the irony of it is, I flunked out of high school twice because I can't write. And it's not that I can't write, the teacher did not like what I was writing. And you guys know what I'm talking about here. And then after that, this guy here, my friend Donald Trump called, and I said, let's do a book together. I know some people hate him, but I've written 2 books with him. His sons and I are really good friends. They're great kids, like father, like son. I was hunting with Don Jr. and Eric Trump in upstate New York, and bird hunting. And there was this restaurant, and the restaurant was full of immigrants. So both boys go into the restaurants, and they shake hands with all the immigrants. They say hello and talk to them. And then, wow, class act, young. And then we hunt on this island in Hawaii, this private island. There's no running water, no toilets, nothing. Those young boys are just, they're not shishi boys. They're hardcore men. And then we have Hunter Biden, drug dealer, womanizer, like his father.
Robert, we're going to get to your slides in just a minute, and then I want to talk about your cash flow quadrant. But first, I want to poll the audience. I like to poll the audience just to get a pulse of how the crowd is feeling. So who here, besides owning cash, would rather invest in gold? Raise your hand. If you have to pick one thing. Okay. Bitcoin. Yeah. Stocks. U.S. equities. We're Canadian. Okay. Real estate. Homes. Condos. Okay, Robert, what's your read on that crowd?
What's that?
How do you grade the performance of this crowd based on how they've picked their assets?
I rank this audience as smart and attentive. The most important thing, the most stupid people I meet, they actually let a financial planner handle their finances. The smartest people are sitting here, regardless of sophistication and experience, you're here. You can always tell where a person's at by where they're at. Another thing I was taught, I went to military school in New York, and I flew for the U.S. Marine Corps. I was a gunship pilot in Vietnam. But we don't listen to words. We always says acta non verba. Deeds, not words. So we were taught as military officers to judge a person by what they did, not what they say. And so, example good with a political time, Trump puts the wall up, Biden takes the wall down. You can talk all you like, but that's what I look at. And today, I think there's 3,000 students dying of fentanyl every year because of the drugs flowing across. That's why I call it the Biden crime. So watch what a person does, and I'm honored that you're here. I'm honored that you're listening. As I said, some of you are far more sophisticated than I'll ever be in mining. But I think we all know why we're here. We're here because the dollar is fake. We've got to start going to hard assets.
What would you rather buy today, Robert? Like I mentioned in the beginning, everything's at all-time highs. Bitcoin, gold, real estate, stocks, everything's expensive valuations-wise. So if you had to put money into something today.
Silver.
Okay, interesting. Why silver?
Well, because my friend Andy Scheckman here, Andy is always talking to me. And he knows the stats. He's a smart guy. I'm not a very smart guy. But he says every time they fire those rockets, in Tomahawk rockets, I think there's 1.4 pounds of silver in them. And you never get it back. But I also have lithium mine. And so, as we all know, silver is an industrial metal. So it's also a strategic metal in war. And my concern is, I hope I'm wrong, we're heading for war. And that's why I like Trump, because I think Trump is anti-war. He'll rattle hard, but I don't think he wants war. Biden wants war.
Yeah. When there is war, which assets typically perform well during heightened geopolitical instability? Besides silver, that's used in, industrial materials.
As a Marine helicopter gunship pilot, I saw a lot of copper come past me. And I forgot. I was in Milwaukee with Donald Trump the day after he got shot, and he had his patch on his ear. So he and I were talking about what it's like to get shot at. So I was talking about as a gunship pilot, you're rolling in, and you hear this vip, 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 vip. And Trump said that's what he heard too, vip. But this came that close to him. Mine never came that close.
Okay.
So lucky.
All right. Well, tell us about passive income. I mean, you wrote your book. You got famous because of a lot of financial wisdom. But one of them that stuck with a lot of people that I talk to is your ability to communicate how to effectively generate passive income.
Yeah.
What would you do today to generate income yield in today's environment?
Well, it's still the same. I loaded up on gold in 2000 when that guy Brown,
The gold doesn't pay you a dividend, right?
Yeah, but I bought it at 3,000. No, 300.
Right.
300. The Brown bottom when he dumped all that gold.
Yeah.
And so I just sold it at about 2,800, and I bought apartment houses. So that's what I did with it. So I'm always converting from one asset class to the other. And so I acquire, let it ride, and then I buy apartment houses. So I make about $250,000 a month in apartment house income. Not big money, but I can pay my bar bill.
Let's talk about debt. So you mentioned U.S. national debt at $36 trillion, but household debt, credit card debt is also at all-time historic highs. How should we effectively use debt for our own personal finances and investing?
Well, that's a great question, because I got into a huge fight. Being a Marine, I'm an asshole. And this kid came up to me, and he's an MBA program this Christmas. And he asked me for the secret to my success. And I said, I use debt as money. And apparently he had some silly economics teacher. And he wanted to argue with me. But what happened, as most of you guys know, if this thing became fake in '64, well, the dollar became fake in '71 when Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. So the dollar became debt. And what I had to learn how to do at that point, I was in Vietnam. I was flying, the North Vietnamese had kicked our asses, and they were running south. We're flying off a carrier, and I look on the map, and there's a gold mine. I said, I'm going to buy some gold at discount. So I flew behind enemy lines, and took off my guns. My co-pilot and I took off our guns, and we walked up to the gold mine, and there was this little Vietnamese woman with red teeth. I still remember her. I went, so gold was $50 an ounce. I said, I'll give you 30. And she went, spot. I said, what the shit, spot? I said, I'll give you 30. Spot. And that woman didn't have a Harvard degree, but she taught me a lot about gold. Spot means on that day throughout the world, gold's 50 bucks. Very powerful lesson. But she kicked my butt, and then my co-pilot and I looked at each other, and some of you Americans may know this. It was illegal for us to own gold. This was 72. So anyway, we wound up buying gold in Hong Kong, but we had to smuggle it into America. So my experience of gold is pretty intense, that I had to smuggle it. And so I respect gold tremendously, but it's a liquid asset. I can move it back and forth to different assets. So I'm always doing what you guys are doing, wait for it to get low and buy it. So when Brown of England started dumping all the UK gold, I just bought it. It's the same as Bitcoin. It went up, and I bought it back at 6,000. And people say, are you gonna hang on to Bitcoin? I said, no. Let's say it gets $10 million, I'm out.
So you think Bitcoin's going to $1 million?
In my dreams.
Where do you think gold's going this year?
Gold?
Yeah.
I like records, 15K.
Okay.
Now, the secret to my success, I did flunk out of school. I flunked my sophomore year, my senior year. But the secret to my success, you always sat next to the smartest girl. And at test time, so today I do it on YouTube. I tune into the smartest guys on YouTube, and I listen to David and go, da, 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 okay, da, da, da. But it's called cheating.
Well, we listen to you. Actually, do you have some slides? Does Robert have some slides for the board?
I want to show what financial education looks like.
Can you
In
put
these
them
two
up?
games here, this game is going to that little girl who was up on stage. You guys were yesterday. She recommended cash flow quadrant. So this is for her future. And this here is for my friend Amir Adani. And he has a son as a cash flow club in his school. But the game was designed for adults. So I'll show you what financial education looks like from my rich dad's point of view. So this is the board game. And the reason I think this is important for here is I've been coming to Canada for a long time. This here is the rat race. Oh, that game's for you. All right. But this is the rat race. So you talk to a school teacher, they'll tell you, go to school to get a job, save money, and invest in the stock market, and you wind up here. And that's where 99% of the people operate. But the reason I'm happy to be showing this here, if you look out here, this is called the fast track. So the object of the game is to get out of here and to here, where you guys are at today. You guys are looking at fast track deals. So here's buy a gold mine. So when I developed this game in 1996, my goal was I want to take one company public on New York, one company public on Toronto, and Mr. Amir, we're going into NASDAQ this year. So the goal of entrepreneurs, and the reason you're here, is I don't think you're looking to stack a couple of dimes and quarters. You want to find the entrepreneur that's going to get it out of there into here, onto Toronto or to New York. My first public deal was a Toronto Stock Exchange deal in Dalian, China. And as soon as we struck gold, the Chinese said, thank you very much. I like Chinese food, but I stay away from China. But anyway, the fast track is for why you guys are here. You don't want to, see, inside here, in Canada, is RRSPs, 401ks in America, S&P 500. When you're out here looking at deals, you're looking out here. So when I was coming up here, that's what I was looking for. Even today, I cruise the booths here. I'm looking for one of these things. And it's a whole different mindset. So that's what I do. And that's the game board. Oh, excuse me. This is the real financial statement. It's the only board game that teaches financial statements. As my rich dad always said to me, my banker has never asked me for my report card yet. My banker doesn't care what school I went to. My banker doesn't care what my grade point average was. My banker wants to see my financials. So in 2008, when the markets crashed, I borrowed $300 million. And when people say, how do you borrow $300 million? Well, as you know, you've got to have a financial statement. And the reason this is important here is when you look at this, the poor people are up here. They're looking for a high-paying job. Or they're worried about expenses. So this is the poor middle class. This is the rich. And so the purpose of the board game is to have you playing it. You actually play with fake money, like Monopoly money. You move around. You're trying to get out of the rat race onto this here. And you want to start stacking this here. So my poor dad, all he focused on was there and his expenses. My rich dad focused here. So what gives the cash flow board game power is it teaches people about the asset column, the balance sheet, not the income statement. And this here, as you guys know, is called the statement of cash flow. And so financial intelligence is, can you control your cash flow? And apparently the US government cannot. Their cash flow is going out. And we have a serious problem in America because I think 80% of Americans, more cash is flowing out than flowing in, which puts them on credit card debt.
I have a question, Robert. For the average person, me and everyone sitting here, roughly how much of our personal balance sheet should be assets versus debt? Is there like a ratio that you recommend or subscribe to?
See these smart guys? They use words like ratio and all that. All I want is, I may swear, as much as I can get on this guy.
Okay. All right.
I'm checking my Bitcoin. My friends are calling me. I just bought a real apartment house in Las Vegas. I bought another one outside Arizona, and poor California. But I'm never going back there again. But the issue, as you guys know, is going to be insurance. So there's more opportunities all the time. So I'm always looking for the assets. But this is the one big thing here. You know how guys like Dave Ramsey, they say, live below your means. So I don't know if you saw on the game board, there's a yellow Ferrari. That's my yellow Ferrari. I sold it recently. But, so where does a Ferrari go? Income, expense? Here. And so all of these financial wizards out there say, live below your means. I'm Japanese. I don't look good in Toyotas. I need a Ferrari. So the deal I have with myself is I buy my Ferrari, which is a liability. But to buy that Ferrari, it was only $500,000. So to buy the Ferrari, I had to buy an asset. So I bought a storage unit, you know, those self-storage units. And the self-storage unit paid for the liability. So I can have anything I want, all the liabilities I want, if I'll buy the asset first. And that was my rich dad taught me that. So the last time I was here, Brent Johnson asked me what my plan B was. I said I bought a Lear 60 jet. So the whole thing here is your goals change when you understand this here. So I don't like flying commercial. So I bought a Lear 60. It's a lot more expensive. But to buy the Lear 60, I had to buy this here. Does that make sense, you guys here? So that once you understand this, you can have anything you like. I don't live below my means, like I was saying.
Okay. Do you have another slide?
Yeah, oh yeah. This here is the difference here. This is the second book. My poor dad always said, go to school, become an employee, get a job. My mother says, become a doctor. S stands for smart person, accountants, attorneys, lawyers. B stands for big business. This could be like today, Elon Musk. And I is the one, I is insider. So these guys invest here, but if they invest in RRSP or 401k, you're outside. And so the reason I've been coming to the Vancouver for 25 years. I come here because I want to be here. I want to know who I'm investing with. I want to look at them eye to eye. Like my friend Amir here, I'm looking at him all the time, right? So that's why I'm an insider with the guys. Same as Marin Katusa. I'm on the inside. I don't buy stocks on the outside. Okay. That's that column here. And the purpose of this here is you play the game 10 times and you teach 10 people. Your brain starts shifting over here. You start thinking different. So why am I not over here? Why am I not over here? So last night I was at the party, nice party, but this woman was trying to convince me to buy some stock. I said, man. But her mind is over here. Then she lowered it on me. She's a doctor from Stanford. I said, okay, small thinker. You know. Am I making any sense, you guys here? So the purpose of the board game is the more you play it, the object is to get you to start thinking over on this side. It's an adult game. Because I got it for my kids. The adults need more than the kids. But you start thinking it out here. So the reason I've been coming to VRIC all these years, and thank you for Jay for inviting me, is I want to be here. How many out there would rather be here? That's why you're here. It's a different mindset. These guys here, their words are always the same. You know their words. I want a safe, secure job with benefits, time off, and a retirement plan. So you hire those guys and you give them a paycheck. This person here, like my doctor, if you want it done right, do it by yourself. That's not me. I sit next to these people. Okay. Over here, I'm looking for the best team. I'm going to the team next. I'm looking for the team, not the project necessarily. And over here, what's my return? Question. Who pays the most taxes? This is Canada, US. 40%, 60%. 20%, 0%. So by understanding this, playing the game, I make millions of dollars and pay 0% taxes. That's the difference. And this is the BI triangle. This is the team. I cannot do what I do by myself. My company is a team, an international team. We have a mission, team, leadership, product, the legal guys, my attorneys, systems are my engineers, communications are my marketing guys. My systems is most of my money comes in from bookstores all over the world. Every month pours in, and then that hits cash flow. But I've got to have different people in there to make enough money to pay 0 tax legally. Those are the things.
Excellent. Do we have any questions?
I just wanted to say I remember meeting you last year here, one of the best experiences of my life as well. What price do you think Bitcoin might reach this year?
I haven't done right now. My guess is 250.
Appreciate it. Yeah, and a nice shirt, by the way. I hope you like my hat.
Thank you. I'm just guessing, you guys. Okay.
What's your tips for becoming into the B and I triangle without going through the E and the S? Or sorry, the B and the I quadrant without going into being an employee first or a specialized worker first?
It's up to you, man. I'm not your high school guidance counselor. It's a legitimate question. But the question is, what skill sets do you need? When I was getting out of the Marine Corps, like I said, I had thousands of hours as a gunship pilot. My poor dad, who was an E, said to me, go fly for the airlines. And I said, I don't think American Airlines United want a gunship pilot flying their aircraft. So he says, well, then get your PhD. I said, Dad, PhD stands for poor, helpless, and desperate. I'd wind up like him. So I didn't talk to my poor dad anymore. So I go see my rich dad. I said, what should I do? He says, if you're going to be on the B and the I side, your skill sets are different. So the skill set on the B and the I, skill set number 1, you've got to sell. I went, oh. So I had to go home and tell the old man, poor dad, I'm going to become a salesman. Well, I was saying to my mother and father I was going to be a salesman. They hated salesmen. They're Marxists. And then so once I learned how to sell, my rich dad says, you have to learn how to raise capital. So when people say, what was I doing up in Vancouver at Jay's show? I was one time one of those guys out there pitching a deal. I love the VRIC. I love Canada. In my opinion, this is the home of pure entrepreneurship.